super perfect team, far and above the strongest team within the Korean region. As we look at the roster, Soap, Melody C, Misaka, Chen Xiao, and ZZH. Gilly, what is the standout player for you? Which player may be the most development over the past year?
When I look at SPT, I'm looking at Chen Xiao solely because I feel like he has grown in leaps and bounds. What about you?
I mean, Misaka on the front line.
Yeah.
Like, if we take a look at his performance over the past year, I feel like he's only been more and more effective within his role in the team and making sure that he has the impact necessary. But we see the other side of the battlefield. It is Ballistics. I would say it's fair to say that they're the heavy upper dog in this series, that it's going to be a difficult game for the members of SPT unless something kind of wild comes out.
It's weird because Ballistics are definitely the top dog in this one, but Ballistics are almost like playing like two different teams. And the drafting fits with that too. Sometimes double support, double range that we've seen from a lot of teams play, but having trouble with that. They got dominated by Team Dignitas yesterday, and yet when they played versus Fnatic, they had more of an aggressive playstyle, playing things like Genji, and that seemed to be just completely different, maybe just fitting their playstyle more. And SPT has been improving and growing throughout this event too, but we have yet to see them have success versus a non-Chinese team, so here is a great place for them to start.
Braxis Holdout being picked by Ballistics. The ban on Braxis Holdout, I feel like, is really heads up, you know, into Super Perfect Team. We know the Korean teams typically ban out one of those two StarCraft-themed maps, and, you know, no one really runs Warhead outside of North America, and not against Roll20. Very educated there, but both teams are comfortable on a map like Dragonshire. I want to say I'm very hopeful here for SPT to that fact that they get a map that they call, you know, home territory against Ballistics, but it is Ballistics. It's got to start with the draft if they're going to find a way to make this more competitive than I would expect.
The last time these two teams faced off was in the BlizzCon HGC Finals group stage. They were both in the same group. They played in the winner's match, and it was not a good series for SPT. SPT played how they did at the beginning of this tournament, very reactionary to their opponents in the rotations. And although that has worked for them in their own region because they can wait for someone to make a mistake and then pounce, those kinds of mistakes aren't happening from the higher tier, higher quality teams from other regions. So I'm hoping to see a more proactive SPT, much like we saw when they were playing their global game versus CE on this very same map.
I agree with you. I think that if they can find any way to maybe focus a little bit more emphasis into the 4-man and getting more kill potential rather than concentration on the wave clear, I don't think that's the only direction that SPT can go, but I just feel like that is not what we normally see from them. And I feel like if we are going to see the standard SPT, no matter what version of Ballistics shows up, I still feel it is going to be a challenge. The Rhaegar helps the wave clear, helps the 4-man. Nothing stands out too much for Ballistics. The fact that that is a high Murden, though, does show more that the preference of maybe the individual performance that Ballistics has on the hero with Hooligan on the front line than it is the tournament meta.
Yeah, I want to wait and see what the next 3 picks are, but even with the Genji ban, I almost think they're trying to lead back into more of the kill style compositions that both KSV, Team Dignitas have had a lot of success with, and Ballistics had success with when they were playing with that too. And getting the early Dahaka for them so that they can still have a global who can be able to sit in lane in that top lane, especially for Jungha. Not getting the Junkrat that we've seen from Ballistics a lot there, but SPT will pick that up instead.
I like the fact that we see that from SPT, and we've seen so many times the mismatch into the Dahaka. It just generally, we've seen this, I want to say 2 to 3 times throughout the tournament so far on Dragonshire itself. And the biggest thought process when facing against that Junkrat into Dahaka is find a way to kill the Junkrat. His health pool is a little bit too low to be pressuring out as often as we have seen teams make that happen. The Genji ban does hurt that play style for Ballistics, but the Murden pickup that, you know, immediately I was like, this is higher than some of the others. That is really going to be able to help. Murden, probably the best other than ETC or a new Baraki.
An ETC picked up by SPT that has been one of the priorities of Misaka. Would say ETC and Arthas, which is a very curious hero happening for the GCWC. We kind of thought it would be a new Barak and Stukov emerging as the duo, the heroes of the hour, but Arthas has an incredible win rate so far. Not played by every single team here yet, so we're waiting to see the adaptation to that and how strong he really is.
We see the Greymane and Karzim rotation, so this is sticking to a very BlizzCon meta for Ballistics with the pickups here. No wild variables, just having the Greymane, Karzim, Murden dive in, make sure you get a lot of pressure onto anybody. Helps the 4 decent-ish wave clear by the Greymane to be able to make up for it, but without having that go-to wave clear, I do feel like, I want to say, I'm impressed with the draft so far for SPT. I feel like they should have the upper hand. It's just, are they going to have the skill level to be able to execute?
Yeah, I wonder what that last pick will be if Ballistics wants to move away from the double support that they have been playing on Dragonshire. The SPT likely are going to get another support here too. Generally, I feel like when we see teams play this Junkrat composition, they have a double support to go along with it, trying to keep him alive. And then another, some sort of range to round things off, help with the wave clear in the other 2 lanes. With a solo Karazim, if they expect a solo Karazim, could be that maybe we're going to see a Chromie here from SPT, but there are lots of other options. They'll just go straight for the standard Vala Uther.
That will help out a little bit with a lot of pressure. The one thing that I do like, the fact that we see a Uther come out, not so much of a staple in this tournament as we have seen in the past, is just the synergy with the ETC. ETCs have really struggled in this meta to find a way to get those mosh pits off if they feel like that's the heroic choice they're going to pick up. And we'll see, you know, SPT now has that synergy into that collapse that we can expect Ballistics to have with that trio I was referring to before. Maybe find a way to kind of get a rebuttal and then Divine Shield mosh pit.
What are you expecting to see here? What do you want to see from this final pick of Ballistics?
I was thinking about this for a long while because I want to see more wave clear, and generally we've seen a lot of teams concentrate on making sure they do have that double support, and if they go into that avenue, things like Stukov, Malfurion maybe, are the things that can supplement that. Stukov doesn't synergize that well. Malfurion feels a bit out of place in this composition. And if they don't go into the double support direction, the solo Karazim, wow, that was not what I expected. What?
Wait a second.
This is not new Zeratul. For everybody at home, you know, I know we're mixing patches up, but this is not the new Zeratul. This is very much the old Zeratul, but it does play into the picking up on the Junkrat on top.
And it feels more Ballistics, the kind of Ballistics we were talking about wanting to see, right? A lot more aggression from them. They have the ability to run this very melee-heavy composition because SCSC has played Zeratul for a really long time. So it can still have Jungha playing Dahaka, but then flex SCSC over to the Zeratul.
The one thing that I want to see out of the Zeratul play throughout this game, other than focusing on getting the pickoffs and trying to snowball the game out of control, but let's say we see both these teams on even footing in the mid-late game, is it's very convenient that Uther was picked up as the last support for SPT because it's the legitimate best support into the Zeratul, not because he has the opportunity to get the lockdown. That is very convenient, but it's more so that if somehow the Uther's outside of the void, he's the best at ensuring that nobody ends up going down in the process. Rhaegar, he's good, but not as good because obviously Ancestral versus Divine Shield, there's a delay on the cast time, but both of them are pretty effective. So even though this is going to be a struggle for Junkrat up into his solo top, there are a lot of great, you know, kind of convenient pickups that were earlier in the draft for SPT.
Is there any idea maybe of SPT running a 2-1-2 instead of a solo Junkrat up at the top?
I would love to see that. That is a direct response to the Zeratul pick that feels very out of place, that if we don't see them conform to the standard 1-4, that it would great punishment. And honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. China was the very first region to put heavy emphasis into that. When they failed, they could not match the 1-4 proper. We're about to find out.
Well, SPT hoping they can stay alive through all of the aggression coming their way. They are in the blue, China's #1 team at the end of HGC China. SPT with Soap playing Uther, Melody C on Vala, Misaka playing ETC, Xin Xiao playing Junkrat, and ZZH on Rhaegar.
And in the red is going to be Ballistics. We have Magi on Karzim, Hooligan playing Murden, Greymane played by SDE, Jungha on Dahaka, and SC on Zeratul. Man, that is a satisfying sight. Not one we get to see too much anymore.
Yeah, he used to be the melee player, right, of TN now,
Yeah.
all the way back in the day. We're talking 2015 Heroes of the Storm.
He was the original Q build Gathering Power Zeratul.
Oh, yeah.
He was. That was very much his build, and he made it look absolutely devastating.
That's not so much what's going to happen today.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that play style, but slightly. It will be focused on making sure that they can snowball out of control in the same manner, just, you know, not picking off the Vikings here and there and making sure that they get that OPOPQ build.
Interesting to see that Dahaka went bottom and Zeratul was up against the Junkrat in the top lane. SDE going in, power slide great, but the Storm Bolt even better as Ballistics takes first blood.
Very well done there for Ballistics, showing that aggression we expected out of that high Muradin rotation. It's working so well for them so far, but I want to say that this is nothing new. SPT should have expected a lot of the pickups. The only weird part about this draft at all on the side of Ballistics is very much that Zeratul, and even then, Zeratul has such a straightforward playstyle on a map like Dragonshire. I feel like that they should be able to stop this pressure early on, and so I want to see them find a way to stop that pause button. We talked about the laning situation adjustment. It turns out that they were going to commit to the 1-4. And so it's going to be where do they find a way to be able to stop this pressure that they're already applying?
Love seeing Ballistics get really aggressive down here in the bottom lane, though, because they have the Zeratul, and he is just trying to stay out of vision as long as possible until he can give some damage down on Xian Xiao. He's got the Vorpal to follow him. After that, he is 100% dead. SC will find another kill, 2 kills for Ballistics, and that's just something that Xin Xiao's going to have to keep in mind, and that scares him back from what normally should be a winning lane matchup for him, and just versus Dahaka.
And normally you'd look for a lot of pressure on the opposite side of the map. Melody C tried to make that happen with what he was doing there to SDE, but just a fast rotation from Ballistics, miles ahead there of SPT, and it secures not only victories and skirmishes into the top lane, it is just at every part of the map.
Yeah, anywhere they can possibly find a kill, Ballistics are taking it. 4 kills in just a little over 2 minutes into this game. They'll start working on getting their Giants so they can have that extra pressure in the bottom lane. Taka back up in the top lane, looking to see if maybe he could start taking back over that Shrine. Ballistics has a level lead over SPT before 3 minutes into the game.
And that is insane. I just purely off of a couple of kills. And again, this playstyle should have been very expected for SPT. It's just Ballistics. They do what they do best. They're known to be one of the best rotating teams in the world, especially within their region, and they're putting it on display here, leading to the very first Dragon Knight of the game 3 minutes into it.
A Dragon Knight is a split push. Go ahead.
I'm gonna already ask the question that I sadly don't want to. That, like, where's the moment where we see SPT turn this around? Because they're conforming to a very traditional laning situation, which Ballistics drafted with the expectation that that would be the case. And I'm yet to really see that kind of moment where they're going to be able to change and flex it out. And Dragonshire is one of the maps that you can't just hope that that's going to change. It will not. If you do not be overly proactive to ensure that your opponents cannot keep manipulating the map in the manner that they already have. So do you see a window down the road? Anything that you'd like to see?
Well, obviously when you see a hero like ETC with a crazy good heroic ability, they can bank on a good mosh, but there's a lot of ways of being able to stop that for Ballistics. And speaking of Ballistics, SCSC getting a lot of damage, so that gives some turnaround to SPT, although Jungha Hooligan come in, make quick work of Junkrat, continually trying to body block the rest of the members and get even more kills, making this a favorable trade with a quick rotation.
Very well done. Misaka does end up getting the full back channel there, so he is going to make it out. Ballistics sniffing it out smidge too late. I'm expecting Ballistics now to paint the map red, get the pressure out, and just set themselves up, prep for the next Dragon Knight phase. This is very much a map and situation where the responsibility is on SPT to change this outcome in the playstyle. Be nice here if maybe a little bit of pressure focusing with the Night Camp and snowballing it. The biggest thing is making sure that they force the fight pre-10. And sadly, on Dragonshire, there's very few objectives that actually can enforce enough clumping to ensure that teamfight truly does go down. But at this point, I don't know if they can, you know, ask for anything different. They need to see that level of aggression, or at least hoping to poke and prod at Ballistics.
You'd rather them try to get aggressive at this point than not wait until they can get heroic abilities? Are they that far behind at this point?
You don't have to necessarily all in for like a full wipe, but at least I would say when we look at the body language with the decisions made by SPT, never are they questioning, can we maybe poke and like enforce something to be a misplay here. They're, again, playing that more reactionary playstyle that we expect to see. They are hoping that Ballistics does that. And it's not that I need to see maybe an all-in be like, guys, this is the only chance, because it isn't. There are a couple of windows in the future. But to sit back and show the body language that they are, it does not look like that is going to be able to change things from what we've seen so far.
Well, they did come in, but the problem with trying to get that aggression and get going is even if Dahaka is up in the top lane, and he also had a camp that must have been dealt with by SPT, and Ballistics were able to bring in Jungha, making it a 5v4, and then even though SPT gets aggressive, Ballistics gets yet more kills, 7-1 at this point, with still over a level lead as they get heroic abilities. And that should amount to a very quick second Dragonite for this team.
And at this point, Ballistics now with that full level window with the Dragonite on top of it, it's really how much can they make happen. I'm assuming it'll be a minimum double fort play. That would be what I would set as the standard picking this up. Ideally, it's going to be a double fort front, keep wall, or triple fort play to ensure that the top lane is even more difficult for the Junkrat to hold his own. That being said, they've been so successful with the Zeratul play up on top. I almost feel like giving them that false sense of security might be in their best interest. Let the Junkrat feel as if he has a home next to the fort, as you see him bunkering down by, and just Zeratul can dive that all day. He's one of the best divers. So just leave it up there and pressure mid and bottom, whereas normally against Junkrat, I'd like to see that removed. Yeah,
and especially because Dahaka's there too, you can keep him held closer too and then flank around the side with the Zeratul. That happens a lot in Korea, actually, thinking that you're safe in that top lane at that top fort, and a team like KSV have ganked Jungha many a time in the top lane of Dragonshire, so that may be their next plan. They use the Dragonite to take out the fort in mid. This will be slowing down the rotations of their opponents of SPT as they're trying to go back and forth, and they have the Giants pushing it in the bottom the entire time.
You have two decisions when you have kind of these early mid-game Dragonites.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity, especially with the Power Spike Ballistics had, where you look for the snowball the game out of control in this moment, or keep the lead that you have and maintain the experience at all points in the map. You can do it on a map like Cursed Hollow too, with the first tribute, or first curse, excuse me. And so that is exactly what Ballistics did. Rather than going for that double or third where you clump as a 5-man, you maintain the soak everywhere, draw resources with the Dragonite, and kind of stall out the time. It is one of those ones where I feel like with the new spikes onto the Dragonite, there is no right or wrong decided yet, but just generally speaking, most of the time that early game Dragonite might be looking to get a little bit more than we saw there out of Ballistics, but they're getting aggressive here down on bottom.
As he missed the Singularity Spike on Melody C, this does let him get back out. Divine Shield's been used on a Rhaegar who is very far forward. The Riptide comes in, trying to split the team, throws back Jungha. Hooligan going into his avatar form, still takes a bunch of damage, and SPT holds in this fight.
But look for the Zeratul flank sitting up above. That is SC sharking on the side. He does have the Void Prison if necessary, and everybody on SPT has no idea that he's going to get this flank. Who does he go on to? It looks like Chen Xiao is the focus for now. Maybe ZZH. Hooligan hits a Stormbolt. Seeker in the dark on the backline. 3-man Void, and ETC already deleted.
So well done, that isolation comp, using the Cursed Bullet too, just to bring down Misaka. Ancestral Healing keeps Melody C alive for a while, but Hooligan has the body blocks, and Rhaegar is dead. So is Vala. Another kill, 4-0. Make that a 5. Full team wipe for Ballistics.
Beautiful palm there just to make sure that the stats remain as lopsided as they were at the beginning. They're 12-1 in terms of kills. Hooligan even showboating, they're draining a bit of extra ammo. And now it is 20 seconds away from what is, I think, fair to assume going to be another Dragonite for Ballistics after this 3-level lead.
Yeah, not only do they have that 13 advantage, but more importantly, they're in a position that they can push the waves so far into the base of SPT. Dahaka's already been doing that in the bottom. Greyman's going to get a camp to help out with that too. That has to be dealt with. And SPT either has to venture out into Vision territory for Ballistics. They're going to solo mosh. This is kind of a Misaka thing. I feel like I've seen him do that a lot, just like, we're going to guarantee get this kill. They followed up with Rain of Vengeance, and it does help. Every little bit helps when you're this far behind.
Exactly, because, I mean, for anybody who does not know the underdog experience system, for every ounce of levels that you're behind your opponent, your greater the experience of every kill is going to be worth. So what is a solo mosh kill at Dead Even Talonteers is a very, very poor decision because the resource cost. I'm not going to say that that is always the winning trade when you're that far behind, but I'd rather see that kind of play to try and find a way to use that and come back into this game from SPT than that patience we felt like we saw for the first 9 minutes.
Yeah, the unfortunate situation for SPT is they don't get quite as much out of that as they would have if it had been, you know, another hero, because it's Dahaka and he can still brush talk back in. And as I say that, so he does. Void Prison down.
There's going to be an isolation immediately, but the Rain of Vengeance actually gets enough peels. EZH gets a Divine Shield and drops an Ancestral. Soap, though, is going to be caught out. He still has Uther heals in Ghost form, but I don't think Misaka is going to get out of here. Jungha makes sure that is not the case. Drags him back, and it looks like at least 2, now 3 kills for Ballistics, even dropping the isolation at the very end.
Down goes ETC as Ballistics hits 16. Momentarily, SPT will keep from this Dragon Knight.
Good night, my sweet prince. I'm surprised he didn't all-in commit to that, to be honest.
More focused on just getting the DK ASAP.
I mean, with the dead timers being this short, understandably so. You know, it's sometimes hard to forget that it's only 10 minutes into this game because Ballistics has killed so many people that the experience has accelerated the pace at which this game is going. It's 16. It's level 16, and the fact that there are still 3 forts up normally is so very much uncommon. Dragon Knight, though, gonna be picked up. Ballistics picking up even more than that by stealing this camp away from SPT. I mean, look at this pressure. Yeah. Bottom lane, double giants, Knights on top, Dragon Knight through mid. What do you do?
They got like everything you could possibly get. It's like on Garden Terror when you're playing that with your friends and they're like, hold the Garden Terror, we're gonna get everything. And you know, I'm talking about Garden of Terror, but that's not gonna be seen here. But this is terrifying, a push for Ballistics. There is no 16 insight for SPT at 14. Ballistics have the camp behind this, a camp in top lane to push that one too. The world is their oyster.
And now the Void's up, Ballistics really can do whatever they want. It's such a utility-based spell that at this point you can use it to make sure you get the kills past the keep, ensure that you get the keep. It's just what is the positioning risked by SPT? Venturing any farther than, you know, that invisible line, roughly where that giant out, might be a little bit too far. And Ballistics transitions out towards mid and keep up the pressure. It's just going to be SPT waiting until they find themselves a 16 talent tier, which I think is fair to assume about as the next Dragon Knight phase hits. But that's going to be where Ballistics already controls a majority of the shrines and somehow might be rounding the 20 at that point in time. Obviously, SPT can catch up in that experience faster.
That was a great face mount. Oh, Misaka gets out alive. I was sure he was dead.
You know, with how dominant Ballistics has been through this game, about every time I see Hooligan Dwarf Toss in the direction of my opponent, I just go, yep, that's it. He's out. The confidence is there. Collapsing, though, is going to be up towards top. Well, okay, actually, I want to take a minute to talk about this middle game that Ballistics is playing right now. They're absolutely ridiculously dominant for about 10 minutes into the game, and then they take a keep all throughout bottom, and though they do still have that major talent tier advantage over their opponents, you can see they're worried about the 20, which is why Zeratul is maintained towards top, and why the Dragon Knight, the first Dragon Knight, played in the manner that it did, but this is, I would debate too passive for how insanely strong their advantage is, and still having Void. Yeah. They could have taken this keep without a doubt.
Yeah, they had 16 when SPT, or 16 talent tier when SPT was 14.5. You would have thought you'd see them pressure up more, try to take more structures, at least poke. But I mean, you're basically, I guess, relying on mainly just the gray main poke, since they are kind of more of the melee focus. Maybe Zeratul can try to go in and out.
I would say that normally I would look at that situation with how little of range and siege that exists, and I always have the exact same opinion, but it's the Void. When you have that statistical of an advantage when it comes to your heroes, like Zeratul scales whenever he has that percentage over them, he can one-shot what is already a winning trade for him so much faster. And how effective that Void can be, that even if SPT somehow got the upper hand on an anti-siege, you just really can turn it around so very fast when they don't have a major talent tier like that. It's not that it's going to cost anything for Ballistics, right? But it's just one of those situations that for these newer rosters and growing teams, that there's still holes that where maybe it wasn't there in the past.
Yeah, we've been seeing that a lot from a lot of the teams here. But also the opportunity to grow while playing against all of these high caliber teams. Ballistics held on to getting those giants just until they're about 20. The sharking is coming in as all 5 members collapsing. SCSC is the last one to come in, but the way that Ballistics has set up, they're keeping all of the members of SPT on the other side of them as a mosh pit goes down, hits a lot of members, but the Stormbolt stops it.
Disengage out, and a lot of damage on Namagi. Palm ends up connecting. ZTH falls so low, and he is going to be the first to drop here in this fight. Dwarf Toss, but Stormbolt is not going to land. A lot of pressure from Melody C, but SC teleporting away from that is going to keep him alive. Gilly, that fight was beautiful from Ballistics, but there's something that happened on screen, off screen, that was debatably one of the highest impact moments of the skirmish, and SC never let Junkrat even get close to the fight. He zoned off the chokehold for about 4 seconds, 5 seconds, then when Junkrat moves in, he teleports over the wall, forces him to back out, and then goes, okay, I'm lucky to join into the fight. That was amazing from Ballistics.
It is, because that Riptire is a big fear when you have a team that is so melee-based. If they're clumping up and you have the Riptire coming in, it's going to get a lot of damage on people, especially with 16 now in the spread volley for all the grenades too. Ballistics clears out SPT as they move on with the Dragon Knight to the core. And this looks to be game 1 going to your Korean team.
19-2 in terms of kills. Not maybe as fast of a game as you would expect from Ballistics, considering how dominant that kill count was, but very much, I mean, absolutely in control from second number 1.
SPT may be looking a little shocked as to how that game went. Dragonshire is, without a doubt, SPT's best battleground, but it's here that Ballistics proves why they've been picking it too. It started with MVP Black, KSV, right? They started really enjoying picking that battleground in draft, and then Ballistics has picked up a few things from them there. Yeah,
it was really interesting to see the transition towards Dragonshire for KSV. I originally had kind of analyzed that the only reason for that was because Rich enjoyed the lane mismatch so heavily that he could just win the game single-handedly. It felt like that for quite some time. But and for how long it has lasted, I don't think that is the justification for that. But that being said, with how dominant that was out of Ballistics, with the adjustments into the draft and how it ended up playing out here, and knowing that that is SPT's map, I'm just very scared on, like, how's the next game going to look? Is there going to be an adjustment and play out of SPT, or are they very comfortable just playing that I hope you make a mistake playstyle?
Well, what we saw from SPT when they looked the best on that map is when they were able to get 2 globals. They had Falstad for MelodyC and then Dahaka for Soap, and that's another reason why Ballistics getting that high Dahaka was so good for them, as they get that Dahaka that not only is going to be really good for them in lane, they also figure out a way to counter the big fear of Junkrat against the Dahaka by having Zeratul. It just really felt like Ballistics had done their homework on what strategy is really the only one that's been working for SPT so far, and then picked it apart.
Yeah, it just dismantled it, and that was, I mean, it was clever. I love when we can see the draft thought process and the execution, like, you know, into the game as well, because at this point, we can assume that Junkrat is going to be prominent into the Dahaka, to the point where if you see it on one side, you go, it's the equivalent of, like, you know, maybe the Lucio Rhaegar situation, right? It's like, well, Rhaegar's here, probably Lucio on the other side of the table, and so just finding a kind of a bait into that and punishing it with the Zeratul. I don't know how much more Zeratul response we'll actually get to see. I feel like that was a little bit, I mean, it is a proper response, but it maybe a better team would be able to capitalize on the lack of team fight they may have.
Yeah, it did feel like it's maybe going to be more dragon-based too, just because they knew where Junkrat was going to be. It's such a battleground where you know exactly how every single lane is going to go in general, even though we thought maybe SPT would switch things up.
Yeah, and on the note, on the mix-up that we kind of were talking about out of SPT, I genuinely feel like that game could have been very, very different if we had seen them run that traditional 2-1-2. I do think they struggled on whoever was going to be the mid and the wave clear avenue, but that probably would have been a more profitable trade compared to the, you know, high-risk top lane that was Junkrat into SC Zeratul, our MVP of the last game. I'm not surprised. It's a, you know, SC on Zeratul, always a flashy player, and we don't get to see that much Zeratul anymore, so I'm down.
Yeah, it's awesome that Ballistics always has that pocket pick for them, and that it's so consistently good when they get it. And not to say that it's always SC who plays it. It also could be this guy here, Jungha, who plays Zeratul, but just the fact that this very mechanically driven hero is always a constant that they can pull out of their pocket when they have a strategy that they want to run like that is a really big boon for Ballistics.
You know, when we watched the trade into the last game with the Zeratul into the Junkrat, at first, I mean, you see the squishy health pool and ganking towards top, and you go, oh, that's pretty good. But it wasn't until we saw, you know, that kill up on top where you use the Vorpal to be able to dodge. Junkrat legitimately has almost no answers. It's the equivalent of, like, it feels like the Falstad into Zeratul laning situation where you're like, you know, I have tools that should be able to get away, but Zeratul just has so many more tools to make sure that my life is actual hell.
Even SPT banned Genji. So if they